The great thing for us is that because of the recession, there's very few people that are working right now. And that was even worse last year with Avatar, because Avatar was such a huge budget that the money that these big banks and studios had to put into movies, the vast majority of that went to one movie, so you could only have one crew working. So you have a lot of really high-end people, actors, A-list actors that aren't working, that they want to work. I mean, if they want to do interesting projects, and fortunately for us, they can go shoot a Transformers, get a $15 million paycheck, but then they'll flip and do an art movie or a lower budget movie because they want to do it because they already had their paycheck from the other one. So we play all of those off of each other. So the early numbers get us the crew and those numbers get us the PR, all three of those things get us our A-list talent. And then that kind of package of 5 things, then we get in front of the investors. It's like our 6th step and say, hey, now this is all the folks that we have in place. Now, for the first time, I'm going to ask you for $5 million or whatever the budget is. And it makes it much easier for them to invest because they see that their risk is mitigated in the process. So that all of these kind of pieces play off each other in this particular program. And it's not that much different than shooting other films. That when somebody's putting together a film project in LA, it's usually broken down into money, actors, and crew. Like, those are the 3 biggest pieces of a movie. So every producer starts with what do they have the most access to. Some people have connections with Paris Hilton and George Clooney, and they start the movie off of there and build it all the way down. Some people say, you know what, I have Academy Award-winning cinematographers and folks like that, and they start there, then they find those other 2. And some people just know money people, just know wealthy people. Say, listen, I got $5 million through my uncle's dental program, and so I can now go hire George Clooney and these Academy Award winning. So it's kind of using whatever you have access to best and then finding the other 2 and building it around that.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a long answer.
Good.
Hey, I'm Mark, and our group's question was, why did you decide to do education first instead of like the medical field and other sorts of places?
Yeah. I grew up around education. My mom is a librarian at an elementary school. I actually was one of those people that had a really great experience with school, high school and college, and enjoyed it. But the biggest reason is that my belief is if we are going to address this kind of myriad of challenges that face us in life, homelessness, disease, all of those things have to start with education, and they have to start with primary education. We can't spend our limited resources constantly reacting to things when we could be spending them preventing things. And so I feel like education is the foundation of all of those things. So if we can start affecting that and raise that standard, especially living in LA where the public school system is junk. You get spoiled growing up in Iowa where every place you go is pretty good, but it's really very bad here. And so if we can affect that, then we can much more easily kind of affect those other things. So that's why.
Hi, I'm Bryce Flaman, and our question for you was, what percentage of your revenues is actually profit?
Yeah, it's that'll vary as well. The way that it kind of trickles down in a film is that, say it's a $10 million budget. So you make the movie, you spend your $10 million, and then you go partner with Fox Searchlight or Paramount or whatever, and they're going to actually distribute the money. So they may say, okay, your movie's $10 million, we're going to put $3 million behind it for this print and advertising that we talked about. So now you need $13 million to get to your break-even point. Once that first money comes in, the distribution companies always take their money first because they have the power. So they'll take their $3 million back first. Once that money gets paid back, the next profit always goes back to the investor because they're the ones that risked everything to get this movie made. So that next $10 million goes to them. The way that it usually works then is that each investor gets a certain percentage of a kind of bonus for investing in a film, and it's usually around 15%. So a movie would be set up where $10 million, they get $10 million, and then they get whatever it is, $1.5 million. On top of that is kind of their initial return for investing in a movie. And then the way it usually works is once that's paid, the profit breaks down into two sections. It's kind of 50-50. 50 goes to the production company and all the deals they had to make with people to get them to do it. Sometimes you have to pay an actor, like I said, you pay an actor $1 million, but you may say we'll give you 5% of the back end or the profits as well. So 50% goes to all those deals, and then 50% goes to the investor deal as well. What we're doing to ReDistribute is actually changing that a little bit, where we're saying there's nothing we can do about the distribution deals. They are as they are. Their systems are in place. But what we can affect are the production company's profits and the investors' profits. So to the investors, we go and say, rather than giving you 15%, we're going to give you 30% return, but then you lose the lottery ticket, that kind of long-term ownership of profit. So if they gave $10 million, we give them $3 million, and that's all the money they'll ever see. So now all that profit that would have gone to them down the road, all of that will go to charity. The same thing with the production company is that normally they would have that 50%. All of that 50% is also going to the charities as well. So essentially what we're telling people in the industry side of it is that you'll get paid your upfront paycheck. We want people to be paid well. We want them to be able to put food on the table, do what they need to do. This is business as usual, because at the end of the day, you still want those A-list people to want to do your film. And if you're constantly asking them to do it for $4, it's going to get pretty old pretty fast, and they're not going to do it. So we say we'll pay you your normal rates, but you just won't get the back end. So in our scenario, it would be, a $10 million movie, you probably need to break, if the print and advertising was around $3 million, you probably need to break $16, $17 million in box office, and then from then on out, the profits start dwindling down. The distribution company would still get whatever deal. Each deal is a little bit different, and they often get 10, 15, 20% of the box office because they're the ones that are putting it in theaters or putting it on DVD. So they'll always get that 20%, but the 80% of that profit that'll be the charity portion. I don't know if that made any sense. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Caitlin. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
I'm a public relations major here, so kind of the promotion aspect of this kind of interests me, working with a low budget. How are you going to get the movie out there, the name out there? We've seen the Facebook page and your website, but we think it's a really great idea, but we just don't know how you're going to go about getting people to actually go see the movie.
Yeah. That'll happen in two formats. One is by the time the movie comes out, we'll have a massive support base already in place through the charities, through the PR, all that kind of stuff. So that'll be the first thing. And then the second part of it will be we'll still do that same P&A that every other movie does. It's just that how we're different is that we get to go to them and say, listen, we already have 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million people already aware, already up to date. So then they don't have to start from ground zero trying to educate them with commercials and ads. And so they get to kind of jumpstart all that and push that forward. So the plan is that we'll partner up with what we've built, and then we'll partner with what they already do well. And then the movie, it'll be the same thing. You'll see it in newspapers and trailers before movies in the theaters and commercials. All that stuff will be the same. You just won't need to see it at the same level because they're not constantly trying to separate it. Yeah. But the PR part, in answer to the PR part, not from getting the movie out, but right now, the biggest focus is getting the word out on the concept. And that happens in a lot of different ways. Like I said, the first was we wanted to just plant seeds quietly. And so, because that virally just kind of happens as it happens, which is great. We don't need to do anything else with it now. People are telling their people and they're telling their people. So that's kind of already done. Now we sit down with people like Wartburg and Jeff Beck, the head of the alumni group, and say, okay, how do we partner up? Is it Wartburg Magazine? Is it the Trumpet? Is it K-War? Is it? And then does he do an email blast? So then that pocket does their thing. Dubuque does their thing. And then we just have a bunch of these kind of identities that launch in their own networks. And then finally we go to these national charities who have massive networks, and they do the exact same thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.